Excellent. So welcome everybody as we fumble our way through our technical difficulties. That's just the way it is. Welcome to, we have fun. Welcome to If These Pages Could Talk. I'm Kiersten, Marcil, author and adventurer into history. And I'm here with my sister authors from Champagne Book Group. We've got our co-host, Sev. Go ahead and
Hi,
introduce yourself.
everyone. Sevannah Storm, romance writer and Champagne Book Group social media manager.
And today we are here with our guest, Patricia. So Patricia, please say hi to our audience.
Hi, everyone. Forgive the technical issues that we are having.
What those things.
What can we say?
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a multi-published author. I'm actually a hybrid author. I am both traditionally published. I have 5 books with Champagne Books Group, and I have several others that are out that are indie published. I have been doing this. I've been in the industry for 15 years, believe it or not, which doesn't seem like that long. I'm a Canadian author. I write, up until about a year ago, I was kind of writing whatever kind of tickled my fancy, but now I'm going to be focusing strictly on my historical romance, Scottish Highlanders, Celtic romance, Vikings, those sorts of that time period. Yeah. And I'm super excited because I've got so much planned for this year that is just going to be absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. Well, I thought we would kick it off with a game, because I always like to start with a little break the ice game. I think we're already laughing, so maybe you could have skipped this, but we're going to play this or that, which sometimes you see a lot on social media. So the way it works is I'm going to ask you whether you like this or that, and we'll have Patricia go first, and then Sev, you can jump in, and then I'll answer, and maybe I'll ask a follow-up question. So are we ready?
Yeah,
sure.
Let's do it.
Okay, so this or that, do you like coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Sev?
It depends on my mood. Currently, it's bulletproof coffee.
Bulletproof. All right, we're coming back to that. I like coffee in the morning and tea after dinner. So Patricia, what goes in your coffee?
Depends on the day. But cream and sugar usually, unless it's flavored creamer, at which point then there is no sugar because it's already sweet enough.
Okay, Sev, what's bullet coffee?
It's a ketogenic coffee made with butter and MCT oil and just plain coffee. So you use a plunger and you froth it into it's like a cappuccino.
Wow,
I drink that.
Super fancy. I love it.
No, it's for weight loss. So.
Oh, okay. Cool. Indoors or outdoors play?
Depends on the season. Spring, summer, fall, outside. Winter, definitely inside.
Okay. Sev?
Indoors all the time.
Me too. Totally. Hands down. You can open the window, stick me by it, but that's outdoors enough for me.
Yeah, and even if I go to the beach, I'll be indoors.
All right, I might do a little beach. Or I do like to kayak. That's like the one thing that'll get me out of doors. But Patricia, what do you like to do when you do go out of doors?
We do hike, we do walks, but gardening. Okay. I love gardening.
Really? Oh, bless you. I hate gardening.
I just started a rose garden, so this is new for me.
Oh, you guys should talk then. Maybe you could pick up tips from each other.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to germinate hollyhocks and roses.
That's way up there. I'm still over here. So you don't even see where I am. That's how bad it is. Just germinating, and I'm like, roses.
The secret to roses are they are incredibly thirsty all of the time, so you can never really overwater them, and deadhead them religiously and cut them back.
My husband does that right to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, put the plant on the windowsill and it'll die at some point, and I'm sorry. You guys are great. Okay, next one, classical or rock?
depends on my mood. I'm the only type, let me put it this way. I like rock, but I like the classic rock. I don't like the modern rock.
Yeah.
So I have to pick classical just because I'm like jazz. I like jazz and 1940s.
Oh, yeah, I have
Back.
some of that. I have some of that in my Spotify. I've got the R&B, I've got the, the soft rock, the classic rock,
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Okay. Do you like to be the driver or the passenger?
If I'm driving, I'm driving. Otherwise, the husband does all of the driving. If we're going
Yeah.
anywhere, he does all of the driving.
So if you have to go for a long road trip, does it matter who drives?
He does the driving.
Okay. You got the navigator spot.
I got the navigator spot, which is really bad because I can't read a map to save my life.
That's what Google's for.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm gonna quick jump in with a story. I have to be the driver because one, I can't navigate either. And I just have to be in control. But when we went on a honeymoon, we did the coast of England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and we arrived, and this is back previous century, so there was no Google and whatever. And we realized like a day before we were supposed to leave London, we're like, we don't even have a map. We don't know where the hell we're going. We had to buy maps. Anyway, sorry, Sev. So go ahead.
It doesn't matter who drives.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah.
And,
So, and in long distance, it's every 2 hours we switch.
okay, that's
Mm.
good. Get out, stretch your legs. Yeah. Yeah, good point. Designated writing time, or do you fit it in where you can?
I have designated writing time, but I also fit it in where I can.
Oh, okay.
So both.
So both.
When the muse strikes. That's
Okay.
basically it. And I pray it strikes when I sit down to write. So, and you?
So say we all. I have designated writing hours because I wish I could, take a quick lunch break and jot something down, and I can. I need to stop and go back and reread what I read and edit, and that gets me into the mood to go forward. So.
And probably research.
Yes, lots of research.
Mhm.
And you need time for that. You can't just stop and say, I'll come back. No, got to research now.
Well, actually, so I'm going to throw you, Patricia, with a question then, because, and I'll wind up with it this way. My question is going to be, do you do all your research ahead of time, or do you research as you write?
So I typically get the idea, then I start doing a little bit of research, and then I start writing. And when I hit a scene or a spot in a book where I need more information, I make a side note that I need to research to do a little bit more digging. And I will leave myself a note. And then what I do is I will actually set time in my process to do research. So I research throughout the process. I just don't stop writing to research. It's like, okay, I got to get this chapter done. Oh, well, I need to know, was it, did they use gold or silver for their hair pieces? Did they, how did they make their wine? How did they make their ale? Okay, leave a little note, go back and find that information later. Because I find if I stop to do the research, I go down a rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, I'm looking at 17th century stays. and then it evolves into crochet patterns for, Edwardian style collars, and yeah.
Yeah. Has it always been that way for you? Like, did you start with the same process for your research, and now 15 years later, you're still doing it that way?
No, when I first started writing, it was I started writing, and then I would need a detail or something, and I would go and I would do the research, and then I would come back, and by the time I come back, I'd spent so long researching that I had lost what I was, so then I had to go back, and so my first book, Mistress, actually took me over 2 years to write. just because so much of the time that that I was using was specifically being done doing research. I was probably doing 60% of the time was research, whether it was emailing professors, whether it was getting library books, or whether it was going to universities and seeing if I could check out books there on what I needed to know. So a lot of wasted time initially, and then as I've moved through the process and over the years, I've kind of come up with this, I don't edit as I go and I don't research as I go. I set time aside for those activities, because otherwise, it just snowballs and then I never get things done.
So there's hope for us who are still starting out in the genre.
Yes, yes, there is.
But doesn't Google make it easier now?
No.
No. I was recently looking up some information in regards to the current project that I'm working on, which is it's an indie series, and I was doing some research on that, and I found a really interesting tidbit. And I thought, oh well, I'm going to follow this up, and I'm going to do a little bit more digging. So I went to my local library, and I said I'd like to get some information, a couple of really good books on the Scottish Highlander clans, because of course we're set during the the first War of Independence in Scotland. And the article that I had read on Google, there was some points in there that were valuable, but when I cross-referenced it, because I don't rely on one source of information for my details, I like to follow up and make sure that there's at least 2 or 3 that are very similar, or if not the same. Right. The information that they were saying was within that time period that I was looking at was actually not within that time period. It was later in the scope of things. It was actually after the end of the War of Independence. So, which made it a little bit hard for me to put that particular detail in, because it's like, okay, yeah, no, it doesn't work, because when you're looking at 1303 in the book and the detail doesn't come out till 1416.
Yeah, that's 1304. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, another century now.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, why don't we skip ahead, since we've already started talking about Master's Mistress? Why don't you tell our audience what that is?
So Master's Mistress is my debut novel. It is this year will be the 15th year that it has been out. 14th or 15th. I think it's the 15th actually. Time flies. It is 8th century Ireland.
Almost a century there.
Almost a century, yep. And it features the last in a line of Royal Irish characters and a Viking lord, and it is full of twists and turns. It's a wild ride, because it's all about overcoming adversity and finding your place and recovering your identity, and there's treachery. And there's treachery in there, and there's betrayal, and there's heartbreak, and it's a full gamut of emotions. Writing it was incredibly challenging, because again, it's a full gamut of emotions. You have a young woman who believes that she is a slave, only to find out she's not, and you've got a brother who hates his older brother, who's in line for the Viking crown, if you will, because the older brother stole his love of his life. And so you've got sibling rivalry, you've got treachery, you've got deceit, you have a massive secret that Jarlath's father Michael's father has been keeping from him, that it just blows the whole thing wide open, and just unleashes this torrent of bloodshed and anger and rage, and loyalties are tested. And so yeah, it's a wild ride. I'm currently working on revisions on it, and then I will be sending it to Sev, who hopefully will read it and go, okay.
Yeah.
But
cool.
And I'm actually hoping that we can convince Cassie to let me do a special cover for it. The cover that I have for it for the new edition is absolutely gorgeous, but I want to do something special. I want to do a hardcover run. And I had talked to Kelly about it. So Kelly and I had worked something out, but Kelly, of course, is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And so I'm back to square one. So I'm hoping that Cassie will allow me to do this because I want to do a hardcover run, limited edition for this one, and include something special for readers.
Yeah, that would be
That would be
lovely.
awesome.
I can still reach out to Kenny if you need
Yeah.
anything.
Okay. Yeah. I have the cover started. I've got the cover design. And it's going to be absolutely gorgeous, but it's just making sure that I got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and
Yeah, cover can make all the difference.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Well, your current cover is like really spicy. Like, is it going to get in? I'm not allowed, the husband doesn't let me use the word yummy when men are involved in the conversation, so I can't use that word. But
but is he listening in? He's not listening in.
No, he's not listening, but I should be faithful to that. I keep bringing it up, can you tell?
So technically you already said he's yummy.
No, you did not hear what you heard.
Nope, didn't hear a thing.
Is your cover going to have the same flavor? And is your book, how spicy is your book?
It is quite spicy. I've had some people that have read it. Well, and then for one of the things with most of my books, it's been declared to soft porn. It's been yeah. So it is not erotica. I know it is not erotica, but it's high sensuality. And yes, the cover will reflect that.
Okay, very cool. Is the process different? Where are you in the process right now of revisions, you said?
I am about 2/3 of the way through the book, because what I've done is I'm actually going through, and there's some pieces and parts that I'm adding to, and I'm adding depth and taking out some repetition. It's basically a massive rewrite is what it is. Yeah. So it will still have the same flavor, the same story is going to be there, but I'm applying everything that I have learned over the last 15 years as an author, as an editor, as a publisher, to rewriting this book. Because
we've come so far already.
Yes, we have. And it's because I have some plans for this book. I'll be honest with you. I have plans for this book, and I'm hoping that with the additions and the changes and the growth and the development and the depth that I'm adding to this book, that my readers will love it as much as I love this book. And hopefully Sev is not ready to to disown me and stop working with me when she gets it. But I'm just so excited because I do have some plans for this particular book. I want to do this year. I want to do audio on it, and I am currently in the process of, while I'm doing the revisions, I'm still in the process of marketing it to production companies to get it options, to get it made into a movie, either on Netflix or on Amazon.
Wow, that is so exciting.
That is exciting.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It is.
Wow, good for you. And I was when I was preparing for this, I was researching you and looking at your website, and I think you mentioned somewhere that you were going through a rebranding right now.
I am.
Go ahead. You want to tell us about that?
So a couple of years ago, 2021, I had the pleasure of throwing myself under the bus, literally as well as figuratively, professionally. And I attended a digital conference called InkersCon, and it's done every year. They have a live, they also have the digital, fantastic, lots of information in there. And it's geared more towards the romance writers. That's the majority of people who attend. But one of the things that was, one of the classes that was there was all about branding and reader expectations and selling your backlist. Now I have, between my pen names, I have 37 books
Wow.
that have been written and released. I have a bunch that I've got back because I've had publishers that have closed their doors, and so I've taken the rights back, and I'm going to rebrand them, republish them. But one of the things that was suggested in this class that I had taken was really understanding what your readers expect from you and really kind of finding your lane and finding your strengths. And so 2021 and early 2022, I went through the process of doing an in-depth career audit, which is something that I firmly believe every author who is out there should do, because it really did give me an idea of what was working, what wasn't working, what similarities I had in my work, what vast differences I had in my work. And it really kind of gave me a good, clear picture of where I wanted to go in regards to the Patricia Bates pen name. And I was looking at it and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to go back to my roots. I started writing historical romances. That's one of my big passions. I love historical romance. I love history. I love the costumes. I love the grandeur. I love all of that. So I decided that that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going back to my roots with that. And then the rest of it, I'm going to put under different pen names. And to do that, I really had to take a look at what I've got out, what I don't have out, what series that I wanted to write. And so I had, by doing that, it really gave me that idea of this is what I want to do. So if you were to look at my backlist, you would see that I am all over the place. And for me to find my lane, I needed to focus in one specific area. So, historicals is one of my main passions, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and writing in series. It's going to have every book that I'm going to be putting out is part of a series, whether it's traditionally published, whether it is indie, it's part of a series. Whether it's a small series, big series, it's going to be a part of a series. And part of the rebranding process was making that decision and then figuring out what my color scheme is going to be, what my message to my readers is going to be, who I'm trying to connect with, what experience I'm selling, because I'm not selling a book and I'm not selling a character, I'm selling an experience. I'm an experience business. And that's how I have to look at it. So rebranding is really taking all of those puzzle pieces and putting them together and giving myself that roadmap. And so that's what I'm doing right now is rebuilding that brand, building that brand up from the ground up, because I went back to square one. And that's what I'm focusing on is making sure that I'm delivering exactly the same experience book to book. So high heat, action, historical accuracy, full length books. That's kind of where my brand is. And I want them to be fun, and I want them to be, I want people to go, oh, I can't wait to get to the next one. So yeah, that's the process that I'm in right now. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. What brought you to the decision that you were going to write series as opposed to just a number of standalones?
So standalones do well. The problem is that most standalones are harder to sell than a series, because a series, you're actually, when you write a series, you're actually creating a sales funnel from book 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, however many, right?
Yes.
So those who pick up book 1 and they really love it, you're going to get a high percentage that are going to go to book 2, right? And then same thing all the way through. So you may write a 6-book series, and between book 1 and book 6, you may have a retention of, say, 45% readers from book 1 to book 6. With standalones, it's a lot harder, because there's really, you can create a lead in to the next standalone, but there isn't that cohesiveness. And oftentimes with standalones, you're rebuilding the world, you're rebuilding the characters, you're rebuilding everything. It does.
Yeah.
And series are so much easier in that sense because you can actually reuse the world, and you can
Yeah.
create secondary series that use the world that you've created and give your readers another another pathway, another gateway into that series. And I do know of several authors that I've had I've had a chance to speak to in depth that have done that, where they've had, you know, they'll do like a trilogy or a 4-piece series in one world, and you know, it might not do so well, and then they'll go, well, I really love this world, so I'm going to continue to play in it, and they'll write a longer series, or they'll write another series that ties into it that are longer books. And
Yeah.
they're actually, what they're seeing is people are buying from one series, but they're also buying from that other series because of that tie-in. So
Mhm.
it's still the same amount of work. It doesn't matter whether it's a standalone or a series. The series does give you that sales funnel, but you
Mhm.
still have to deliver. And
Yeah.
so for me, having the ability to do that with a series, it just makes more sense, because when I'm all over the place, like I write contemporary, romantic suspense, I've got paranormal, I've got paranormal romantic suspense, males, like I do gay fiction, I do, you know, so it's all over the place. There's really nothing that's cohesive. And for me, doing it as a series and plotting out that series and building that world for that series, it just gives me a way to focus where I need to be and focus on what I need to be doing to deliver that package.
My erotica
Yes.
author friend, Tiny Spark, said to me, you have to choose your genre, because when you're sending out a newsletter, those your followers or your subscribers are expecting to see, say, historical romance. And if you are, so that's your market. But when you've
Yeah.
written a contemporary romance, they won't be interested because they're historical romance readers. So what Patricia's doing is correct. Got to choose your lane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Choose your lane. You can have a freeway. You can have a freeway of genres. I have 5 different pen names, 2 of which have not released a book yet because I have been so focused on Mistress, and then the new Scottish series that I'm working on right now, getting those out, and then redoing the paranormal series. But they are very specific. One does contemporary Western romance, and the other one does contemporary romantic suspense with, you know, military style romance, high heat, male titles, those sorts of things. So everything is niched down. I do not hide the fact that I am all of these pen names. I've spoken about it numerous times, but to me, it's a way to rebrand and give each reader a chance to enjoy all of my work and still allow me to write in all of the genres, but it also allows me to put some distance in between.
Mhm.
So do you have like an Amazon profile for every single pen name?
I have an Amazon profile for 2 of the pen names, for Patricia Bates and Elise Wiles. The other 3 I have not, because I have, well, I shouldn't say that. The one, my erotica pen name, Anna Mayan, I do have, but I'm not really doing a lot of erotica, so I haven't really been kind of focusing on promoting that particular book, because I'm more focused on the other stuff that I'm writing at this point. But yes, I do. And the thing is that, and I know this is going to sound really weird, but my main goal, or my main focus in promotion and marketing, is not using Amazon as my main platform.
So you go wide.
I go wide. Honestly, very, you know, and I've been doing some research, because I do a roundtable every month in one of my groups, and we talk about craft and all these other different things. That's absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of fun to put together. But during the course of my research, while I was doing the, you know, looking at going wide, there's certain there's other platforms that are more author friendly than Amazon. And I've seen a lot of authors that I know in a lot of Facebook groups that have come forward and said, yeah, Amazon has terminated my account for no apparent reason. No, they haven't given me. So I love Amazon in the sense that it is, yes, it does have a huge market share here in North America. But I want to expand and have a market share in Canada and in Europe and you know, and Australia and New Zealand. And to do that, I really need to be looking at the whole picture, not just one. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. So for me, it's, you know, creating those personas on the other platforms is really great. But one of the things that I've done, because I do have so many, is I do have my main website for Patricia Bates, but then all of the other pen names are under the new publishing house that I've created. And that publishing house does not publish anyone else's work other than my pen names. So it's not open for submission or anything along those lines. It is strictly a way for me to be able to maintain all of the books for those other pen names and all those genres without having to maintain 5 different websites.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. And there's a lot of authors that will use like Author Central as their website, or some of these other platforms, or some, you know, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but those platforms are owned by those companies. And if something were to happen, I have no access, you know. I'm sure we all remember last year when Facebook and Instagram went down for what, 24 hours or whatever it was. Everybody was scrambling. How do I get a hold of all of my, you know, my fans? How do I connect with them? So I keep that in the back of my mind when it comes to creating the personas, creating that reach, because while the websites are work, and they are a lot of work, along with the newsletters, I really feel that it is super important to have those, because then if one of those other platforms goes down, I at least still have a way to reach out and connect with my readers.
Right. Yeah. I love my website. It's one of those fun projects where when you have a little bit of time, you just quick put together a page or update it. And I don't know, some people get really intimidated by making a website for their author brand. There's so much you can do with it. It's so fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me, I'm going to backtrack us quite a bit actually, and ask, for an author who's just starting the process, it seems like the wisdom that's out there is to don't write a series, but have series potential. And that's so interesting then for me to hear you, and I've heard other people say it too, that series really just are the best way to sell a book, because you're always having that first book be marketed every time you've got a new one coming out. Yeah. So do you have any advice off the cuff of what you would say to these starting out authors as to how to go about maybe either writing it or selling themselves?
So there's 2 different ways to market, and I'm going to just kind of touch base on both of them. So when we're talking traditional, of course, there is a specific timeline, right? And when you're submitting a book traditionally, you always want to have at least the first book done, the second book ready to go. You want to have it in edit. So you want to at least have 2 books written ready for traditional, because when you're submitting that first book, you're going to make sure that the publisher understands it's part of a series. That's one of the key points when you're traditional. You want to make sure that the publisher you're submitting to knows the details, and it's a great way to show them that you're dedicated, that you're not, it's not a hobby, it's an actual business that you're looking to make money at. So if you're looking at getting into the industry and you're looking at doing it, one of the things that I would look at is really doing your market research before you sit down to write that first book. Understand what the market is. Now, I hear a lot of authors that say, oh, well, writing to market is as a sellout. It's not. You're not selling out anything. You're basically, what you're doing is you're tapping into what's already there rather than trying to create a new path for yourself. When it comes to starting out, market research first. Figure out what you're passionate about. So if you are passionate about historical romances, that's what you're going to be studying. You're going to be reading a ton of them. You're going to be looking at what the nuts and bolts of those that are selling well are doing. So reading is going to be your first one. The second part of it is that go into it with the idea of whether you want to do standalones, whether you want to do series, You have to make that decision from the onset. Don't say, oh, well, I'm going to do a standalone and then turn it into a series later, because that is 3 times the amount of work. I've done that, and it can be incredibly time consuming, because you've got to go back in and you got to pull details and you got to rebuild that world. And there's a lot of work into it. It's not impossible. It's possible. But I would, that would be the key point, regardless of which direction you're going to go in, is whether you're going indie, whether you're going traditional, because the more you know before you start off, the better off you're going to be. And it's also going to make it easier for you to market. You're going to be able to market your books more effectively, because you've already got that game plan. You've already got a roadmap in place.
Yeah, it serves your story better. It's not that you don't have a passion that you're writing. It's just that you are doing the best you can by your material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As Melanie Harlow said, and I love this quote of hers, you know, if your readers want cake, you give them cake. You don't serve them spaghetti. and it's so true, because as a reader of historical romance, and I think I've actually got 36 on my e-reader right now that I'm waiting to read. As a reader, I want to know that the author has done their homework, that they've done their research. You know, there's nothing that pulls me out of a story worse than I'm reading along and I'm into the story, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're set in you know, the Regency era, for example, and all of a sudden you're using terminology or names or something that is from, you know, the Civil War era. And I've seen that, you know, I've seen
from modern day.
Yeah, or more modern terms. And you do not have to go in depth. You're not giving them a history lesson. But knowing everything that you can is going to benefit you in the long run, because it's going to give you that knowledge that's going to come through and is going to share through. And I actually recently had a conversation with another author, friend of mine. We were talking about historical realism in historical romance, because let's be honest, history was never, there was never rose-colored glasses on it. I mean, you look at any time period, you know, in Rome, women were chattel. They passed from their father's hand to their husband's hand, and that was it. You know, I mean, in medieval times, women were married off for political or business purposes. They were
at a young age.
Exactly. You know, and so when we're doing historical romance, we want to be realistic, but how do we bring that forward? How do we carry that information forward so that the reader isn't off put by the grittiness of history? Because it wasn't all roses. Let's be honest, you know. So you want to make sure you've done your homework, do your research as much as you can, and then apply it in such a way that it's palatable for your reader. And sometimes that means that you're making a heroine that seems to be a bit of a doormat until you actually get, you get that first chapter in, and then you see that she's basically the one that's been running the whole show, because the men in the house are drunkards, or they're all gone, or so you can still balance it out, but you want to make sure that you're giving as much accuracy as you can.
I think we have time for one more question. So why don't we go with this one? Oh no. I kind of keep the conversation going as opposed to just wrapping it. But so here, 2 more. Okay. So your series aren't just one time period or one setting, like you have multiple settings. So how did you get drawn to these time periods and settings?
So I get ideas for books from the weirdest of places. Mistress was a movie that I was watching way back in the day. I was actually the 13th Warrior. I was watching it. I'm like,
I love that
really
movie.
Good. It's a great movie. I'm Like
I love
that
it.
would be really good if it was like a Viking, like a Celtic woman who's and then then we got Mistress from that. So
I
but
don't know
I
how
think
you did that.
I don't know either.
That's a great compliment right there, though.
But I get the ideas, and then what I do is I sit down and I flesh them out, and I'm looking and I look at, the details that I want in there, the stories, I look at every different little puzzle piece, put them together, and then I will put them through so that it when I'm looking at the series, I don't want to tell the same story over and over and over again. If I've got 5 books, I don't want to be telling this exact same story from book 1 to book 5. I want similarities. I want continuity. I want consistency, but I want something different for each book. Even if I'm reusing the same trope, even if I'm reusing the same, whatever it is. So I like to just kind of spice it up a little bit and change things up and move around in time. So Master's Mistress, I'm also taking notes on that because I'm going to be turning that into a series, a 3-book series. So I'm taking notes on that particular one for the next 2 books. But the next 2 books, things are spaced out. So it's not like, it's not like we're telling the story of Amoda's baby that is born in the book 1. No, it's kind of, there's time, we're skipping ahead, so it's the same world, it's just going to be different times, because I like to do that. And honestly, when you are just focusing on one single time, you can only go through that time period so much before it becomes repetitive to you as an author. So
if you're bored, then your
around,
readers will be bored.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so we are out of time. So why don't we wrap up by having you tell us, Patricia, where people can find you?
Oh, well, you can find me on my website at patriciabates.com. I am on Facebook, facebook.com/romance author. I do have an author's page there. I've got a couple of reader groups there. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads, BookBub. Those are the main places that I'm on. I'm also, as I said, I also do a group on Facebook, Serious Writers Haven. So you're welcome to come join us. And we have a lot of fun in there. It's business stuff. It's all about writing books and that sort of thing, but it's a lot of fun. I will be reviving my podcast this year. I'm going to revive that, so you'll also be able to find me on that. Distinct Authors is the name of the podcast, and we'll be doing craft talks. We're also going to be doing a lot of author interviews and just having some fun. So yeah, I'm everywhere. And if you can always sign up for my newsletter. I do a newsletter bi-monthly or bi-weekly, and it's like I've got a lot of fun and stuff in there. I do a lot of recommendations for other authors, those sorts of things as well. So it's I like to have a little bit of fun with my newsletter subscribers.
Awesome. So everybody check her out.
Yeah, if you
Patricia
send me your
Bates.
details, all of
Okay.
that, Patricia, I'll add it to the chat, the
Okay.
Facebook Live.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll send you all of the links here as soon as we're done.
Perfect.
Okay. So everybody make sure you check that out. That'll be up as soon as we can. We will be back here next week. And thank you so much, Patricia, for joining us. Everyone have a great day.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you so much for having me. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.